edition, we will be looking at
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Thank you, Grace, for the news update. It's time for news analysis now, where we review the major headlines trending today. And when it comes to the Early Exchange team, you can count on us. The team is ready. They'll say ladies first. Blessing is here. Blessing, good morning.
Good morning, Femi.
How are you today?
I'm fine. And how are you too?
Yeah, I'm good, yeah.
All right.
Dr. Idauza Osamanze, a.k.a. the wise man.
Femi, good morning. Blessing, good morning.
Good morning, sir. And I like what you always do with your memo that you keep sharing.
Okay. No, it's a secret memo.
Get to see. I will break that code. I told you, I will bring a lady
maybe you need to deploy AI.
Don't worry. I know how to carry out my own private investigation.
That's great. Investigative journalism.
I get
it's what we do.
All
Good
right,
morning. Thank you for joining us on Early Exchange, and I do hope that you're set for what will come your way today, which will be so many information that you can work with and position yourself rightly in the air.
All right, let's kick off the news analysis you're going to start from this juicy ministry, the Ministry of Finance. You know, that's the most sensitive ministry, if you ask me, in my opinion. You know, from this directive from the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Wale Edun, he issued a directive to all MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies to ensure that they remit 100% of their IGR. It's like, you know, the beginning of the year, when a season where everybody is giving everybody targets to ensure that, you know, the target for the year is being met. And so the Ministry of Finance is starting on this note, giving directive to all agencies, all ministries, to ensure that they do everything within their capacity to ensure that they remit 100% of their IGR. You know, the federal government is aware of the responsibility before him. You look at the budget, you know, a projection of 28.7 trillion naira. It's not a joke. And you need substantial IGR and revenue to drive that. Now, the Ministry of Finance is doing this to ensure that they promote accountability, transparency, and they're also working in collaboration with the Auditor General's Office to provide a form of supervision to ensure that they are not just giving the directives, but that the ministries, the department, and the agencies are complying with it. Let me start with Dr. Idauza. We've had issues of remittances of IGR, you know, where in some instances there are discrepancies when it comes to this issue of remittances. But now the Ministry of Finance is saying it has to be 100% remittance, you know, emphasis on the word 100%. Do you think that's achievable?
Well, let me start from where you started from, to call Ministry of Finance juicy ministry, and that's a very negative connotation. And I think that's been one of the challenges that we've had in this country, that people are saying, no, there are some ministries that are juicy and there are some that are not juicy. I don't think it's about the juice. There's no juice in any ministry. So
that's just the perception now.
I don't think there's
have to play around
any juice in the ministry. But that said, is to see that what the Minister of Finance or the Coordinating Minister for the Economy is trying to do is to just enforce a law that has always been there. And that's one of the things that we as a country have not done real excellently well, is in terms of accountability and taking responsibility. There's actually a circular to that effect since 2018, that every ministry that is fully funded by government, who derive, both capital expenditure and overhead, should remit all their revenue 100% to the accounts. And then those who, of course, are partly funded by government, they remit 50%. So that circular has been there, but obeyed in breach. So, and I think this is where really we need to send a signal to the world that we are trying to do things differently. And then, of course, that we are beginning to be more responsible and more accountable for the things that we do. But it's to look at the logic around this, is the fact that you come to think about it. Government does every year a budget, income, expenditure. Now, what's proper to do in terms of governance is that every revenue gets into the coffers of the government first, and then the Accountant General now releases for spending. So the money does not remain with the ministry, and they don't spend it at their own instance. And then you will be able to actually monitor which area of the budget you want to put emphasis or for your plan for the year, and then you can via fund to those areas. But what we've had is that you have ministry who are collecting and they retain. Take for example, before the TSA, university generate internally generated revenue, and it don't go out of the university, and they spend it, and then they come from the back and say government is not funding university. So these are issues that we have to address. That, yeah, everybody, we are government representative. Whatever money we collect belongs to the government. It comes into the central. Then at the end of the, or the beginning of the year, we share it and say, okay, out of all the revenue we are expecting, this is what is going here, this is what is going here. And then, of course, this also will help us to be able to plug or block the leakages that abound in the public service, where people just collect revenue and they spend it, and then after spending, you are now looking for how to justify some of all these things. And I think EFCC, the ICPC really, not EFCC this time, ICPC need really to up their game in enforcing this particular circular, because it's good for us to know that people are not just taking government money. And you know, there was a certain ministry the other day, collected 100% and spend 100% in chasing the same money. And that doesn't make sense. And so it opened doors and room for corruptions and fraud. And I think this is what the Ministry of Finance is trying to do. That look, this circular has been here, this directive has been here. Now the president is saying, let's implement it. Get all your revenue, because after all, we are paying your salary. We are buying equipment, we are buying diesel. So we are the one doing the capital expenditure. So bring the money in full. That is for MDAs that are 100% funded by government, at both recurrent and capital. But for those who are partly funded, then of course those ones are remitting 50% of what they are getting. And I know that if this is done well and is properly enforced, the budget for 2024, I'm very sure, will get up to about 84%.
IGR.
Not IGR, I mean in terms of performance of the budget. Because performance is directly related to the revenue that you get. So if government can oversee what revenue come into the system for this entire year, and then it is used appropriately without leakages, that alone, we can guarantee 80 to 84% budget performance, and which we tell that we may not need to borrow too much money to even fund the 2024 budget.
Well, I was going to ask, before you mentioned, you talked about the ministries that are not fully funded by government. So, because some of them would tell you that they reserve some part of it for overhead. That's why they don't remit 100%. But if the Ministry of Finance is demanding 100% remittance, that means that allocation will definitely get to the ministries, departments, agencies concerned, so that they have what to take care of their overhead, and that's where it balances up.
Yeah, no, that is for the ministries that are doing, that are partly funded. The government only invests in capital projects, are doing 50%. Now, if you are a business person and you are spending 50% of your revenue on overhead, then something is wrong. obviously wrong.
It depends on what the 50% amounts to.
So when you're saying overhead, now you're talking about the cost of running office every day.
Yes.
You're talking about salaries that are coming straight from federation account for most of them. So this is a problem, and this is where the fraud happens. And I think it is proper for government to have clear oversight. So what this will do is to take us to that point we've been talking about on this table, which is performance budget. That if people have actual need, we will be able to measure what is the actual need of these agencies. So government can see. So in terms of the preparation of budget for 2025, we can know actually what revenue the agency are capable of garnering and what are the outlets for this expenditure. So if you're able to put this together, then of course you will have a budget that can be as predictive as possible.
You know, when this story broke, or when I saw the story, my area of concern has to be the issue of implementation. It's another thing to give directives. It's another thing for it to be implemented, or for people to implement it to letters. So I was like, what would build the modality for this thing to be implemented? But I realized that the Ministry of Finance is working in collaboration with the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. So what they intend to do is to perform what we call monthly reviews to ensure that there's compliance and also discipline those who might not comply with the directives. That sounds good, but I hope in reality this can be implemented. And if this is done, let's hope that the IGR could.
Yeah, but if you follow the news yesterday, you are seeing that NSITF had to issue a disclaimer because they said, oh, money we are generating, that 40% Ministry of Finance take it. They have to issue a disclaimer yesterday. You see, body language shows you that somebody is serious and is doing something. In time past, people can take it for granted. But now it will be very difficult. Because where are you going to actually put the money through? CBN, where the headmaster is? Or is it the Accountant General's office? So it's either you comply or you're stuck. So this is the issue. And I think this is also a lesson for businesses where you are able to actually put people you can trust in certain places to ensure that some certain things are done the way you want it done. So for me, really, I think implementation here is not a problem because people are already complying because they don't have option than to comply.
But the thing is, how do we even determine the percentage that this is actually 100% of the internally generated revenue?
No.
Because you see, things are not automated.
No. It's automated. All government revenue, as at today, they passes through remitter. Nobody collect cash. So even if you want to buy, for example, a scratch card from WAEC or NECO, you buy it through remitter. So remitter wire that money to the CBN. So it comes to the CBN, but it comes to the companies or the agency or ministry or department's accounts in CBN, and then they can access it. That's what has been happening. So the revenue is coming in. It's not as if that somebody is waiting on the road and using receipt to collect money. No. Now, anything you want to do with government, even if it is 500 naira, it has to go through remitter. So going through remitter means, of course, this money was first of all hit the CBN. So CBN can have a clear view of what revenue is coming in. So they know that this thing, and that's why even for internally generated revenue for the university students also go through remitter. But the fact that they have access to their own account, because within remitter, each of the agencies have their account where this money come into. So I think that is the thing. So what government needs just to do is to supervise from CBN and from the Accountant General's office so that the release and the use had to be monitored. So what government has done now is that this 100% is not going to these agencies' accounts anymore. There is a new account that is created within remitter where that money is going to come into. And then the Ministry of Finance can oversee it and know what's happening.
Interesting. Now let's move on to the education sector. The latest ranking from Times Higher Education, talking about world university rankings for 2024. You know, I find this story interesting. Our own university here, the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, achieved the premier agricultural university in Africa and secured the 7th position globally. There are several competitors from, you know, several universities. But I find it interesting if a local university like a federal university, but, you know, in Nigeria, a Nigerian university, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, could come 7th position globally. How do you receive that news?
Well, it's well received, and I think the university itself has done well over time in terms of government too has invested in that university, and so much research also is going on there, although we expect them to do real more in terms of finding solutions to our challenge. I have a couple of friends who passes through that university, and they can test really to in terms of quality, in terms of resource provision, in terms of manpower that is in place to ensure that they are delivering value. And I think those are the things that you're ranking. And then, of course, looking at the research and the infrastructure that are put in place to ensure that you get a conducive learning atmosphere. And I think all those things are in place. And the government has actually done a whole lot in supporting that institution. And they have also done well in the area of research, just like Ahmadu Bello too has been doing excellently well in terms of agricultural research and the rest of it. But yeah, it's quite heartwarming to know that at least we have a University in Nigeria ranking here among the agricultural universities globally. But I think there's so much more to do with the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, and other federal institutions and research institutes in Nigeria. We need to do more in terms of research. Number one, it's still not convincing for me that our agricultural products raw can access the European market, because we are told that some of them have some element of cyanide in them, which are carcinogenics. Now, research should be able to take this off these products. Now, we're also talking about product yield. For example, somebody gave an analysis that if you plant an acre of rice in Thailand, it can give you up to about 16 tons of rice. But here, if you plant 1 acre of rice, it cannot give you about 3 tons. So the gap also is wide. In terms of product yield, we really need to also do more and do a lot of research and see that, yes, we are maximizing the land that we are having, and we are producing competitively with other people in other clime. We're also going to see the development. You know about, was it yesterday we were talking about a sexy agriculture? You know,
I hope you're wearing parallel eyes for that on the morning show.
So we really need to make agriculture attractive, and this for me is quite important, so that the emphasis really for this university is to focus clearly on agricultural issues and its value chain, without really necessarily taking attention to other things that are distracting. In this way, we are able to actually have a university that is real at the base of our development. And this is important for us. If there's anything we should leverage as a people, it's agriculture. Because number one, God is fair to us. You can see early this morning, rain everywhere in December. So this means that, of course, you can plant anything, and then, of course, it can grow anywhere. God has given us good weather. God has given us good land. So we need to take advantage of it, and the universities of agriculture really find a way to leverage these opportunities for us. And then, of course, we can also be selling globally, because some of our products cannot access global market because of standard and quality. And this is what the universities should be doing.
Kudos to the Federal University of Agriculture, but I want to see more relationship between the research institutes and, of course, the farmers, and so that we can have the effects. So it's not just you do research on paper, but it doesn't translate to what goes on really in the agricultural sector. But it's good to know that they've been assessed in terms of teaching, in terms of research, and a lot of other things. So that's good. And I hope that not just that university, other universities of agriculture follow suit, talk to their colleagues and try to know what's happening there, what can we emulate. But we'd like to see more partnership between the university and, of course, the real farmers through agric extension, so that you can provide them with knowledge, up-to-date knowledge on better ways to do agriculture. So we move away from the crude method, we move away from subsistence farming, and we move to ways that ensure food security.
You know, in Israel today, they talk about precision agriculture. That you can actually have a farm and determine the quantum or the number of fruits you will get from a tree. And this is possible today. Now, you're also finding in the Middle East, now people are also doing these vertical farms. And all these inventions are happening. We also need to see how we can pioneer those research, that we can begin to produce some certain things, and soilless farming is happening already. So we need to see our institution also going ahead, not just to follow, but to also lead and provide leadership in terms of pioneering and breaking new grounds.
And this will make agriculture more attractive.
Attractive, yeah.
I didn't want to use the
Not
word.
to use that word, right?
It really can become sexy, yes.
All right, Blessing, you have the next
Okay,
one.
yeah, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, has stressed the role of the private sector in realizing the federal government's CNG initiative, and he's called on the private sector to embrace it because, according to him, it will be a cheaper alternative to petrol, which is expensive because of the removal of petrol subsidy. And he said the president has committed 100 billion to the CNG initiative, and it's been supported by the Nigeria Labour Congress. So the CNG initiative, converting vehicles from using petrol to using the compressed natural gas, which for now seems to be a cheaper alternative. What's your take on the emphasis on it, calling on the private sector to embrace it? Is that a route to go? Is it sustainable? Is it an alternative that will give long-term gain?
Well, I think that's exactly what we should do. Government has no business doing business. Government are regulators, and so what government has done is to create that enabling environment for this CNG implementation to happen. And one of the basic decisions that government has taken recently was the fact that they have taken VAT completely off any CNG product or even LNG product. So what this means is that government is also incentivizing this process. Now, it is now us who are the private individual to take advantage of this incentive and make good use of it. That I drive a car, I don't need government to tell me, help me buy petrol, help me buy gas. Now, we're having people to now learn new skills in terms of the ability to convert CNG, petrol cars to CNG, and then, of course, to be able to also play in that value chain of the CNG completely. So this is a private initiative, and we have to embrace it. Now, what that means is that if a lot of people are using CNG gases, then the consumption of petrol also will drop to some bearable minimum. And that, of course, also saves some money for the public. So government has done what they should do. They are prioritizing it. They are saying, oh, all the things, both the one we are going to import from the outside, the one that are fabricated locally, just take away VAT so that it can become cheaper and affordable by the people. But now, government can start a CNG business. The private sector needs to take advantage of what government has done, the good way of government offering to us, and see how we can leverage it for our good and the good of society at large. For me, it's a good call, and I think that people also are seeing business in that area. And so because it's an opportunity opening up, and we're going to be thinking in the days to come, in terms of innovation, what can we do differently and to be able to maximize and take full advantage of the incentives that government has provided.
But is it really cheaper? What about the cost of conversion? And when more people move to using CNG, would that not in time increase the cost of CNG?
Yeah, but you see, conversion is one of course. So what would have lost in conversion, you gain eventually if you compare to buying petrol. So this is what it is. It's not as if we are not going to be converting your vehicle every day.
No, but if you take the amount of money, as at around 2019, when the former president wanted to implement that, the conversion cost was put at about 240 or 250,000 naira. I don't know what the current cost is, but how many motorists can afford that at once? And then when more people move to that,
it's a choice. It's a decision. It's a choice you have to make. It's either you want to be buying the expensive petrol or you save yourself some money. So in the short run, it's an investment that will eventually take pressure from you in the longer run. So if you convert today, you are not going to convert tomorrow. So you do that one for the life cycle of that particular vehicle. Then of course you know that this vehicle is CNG. Or if you want to do it hybrid, you can also do hybrid.
So you can use whichever
that is available. So when you want to use petrol, you use petrol. If you want to use CNG, you use CNG. So all these possibilities is what we should be exploring. And this is where the private sector really need to come in, that we are not doing full CNG. So that if the prices changes tomorrow, that there's a need, and then you have to need to convert back again to petrol. So we must find that technology to be able to do whether a hybrid of both CNG and petrol at the same time. Just the way we are hybriding petrol and electric cars at the moment. So what that will mean is that you spend this money up front once, and then you gain it subsequently in terms of daily refilling of your tank. So I think that is what it is. So you spend 240,000, then of course over time you are able to gain it, and it's much more profitable for you than having to be buying petrol maybe currently at 586 or in some places, or some people are talking
600 plus now.
Some people are talking 600, some people talk, yeah, it depends on where you're buying. So if you're buying from NNPC, you won't pay 600. So these are the opportunities that are there in the market that we as a people have to take advantage of. But don't forget that, like you said, petrol is still underpriced, because if we are fully deregulated, the downstream, you will see that the prices have to reflect the global market price. What we are selling today is not reflecting the global market price. And that's where we don't know how the NNPCL is doing the magic. Whether people are accusing them of subsidizing the petrol, because it's not reflective of the market value. And if we have truly liberalized, and I think the market should determine, and the range should be between that 1,200 and 1,500. That should be for a liter.
If I get what you're saying, make hay while the sun shines, right?
Yeah.
I like that initiative. It's the duty of the government to set the pace for, proper governance, and that's what they've done, to set the pace. I also, in fact, interesting, I saw some of these buses last week, the CNG initiative, the buses. During the festive period, I saw them around in Lagos, people, taking advantage of that. But like you said, there's a need for private investors to come in, because it's just for government to create the enabling environment. So to create jobs, I see opportunity to create jobs. I see opportunity for investors to also make money. It's a matter of time. The pricing will come down. When you're just starting something, it's always very expensive because you have few people patronizing it. But with more outlets and with more people, let's hope that will get better. I think we need to shift our attention to what is happening at the Nigerian Exchange Limited. The NGX started on a very good note, and it's a good news, witnessing a market capitalization gain of 666 billion, closing at 41.5 trillion naira compared to 40.9 trillion on Friday. It's like the beginning of the year. So there's this what you call investors' enthusiasm, and I think that's what is taking place. You have more insurance companies, telecom firms, and five-star hotels, topping the ladder of the table. What does this suggest to us? That was at the beginning of the year, starting on a good note, NGX.
Well, for me, it's a good news. Some of us missed some bus yesterday, seeing what happened at the stock. So that is what it is. And this trend had been since the inauguration. And it just tells you that it's not a fluke. Maybe. That the market is gaining some confidence. Yeah. And of course, business people are beginning to believe that government is having more integrity, because that's what's showing in the market. People are beginning to get into stock buying. And all the stocks are doing excellently well. And that's beautiful for us. And see the huge capitalization. From when the president came in, of 400 and something billion, now you're talking about 660 billion. So this is to show to you that a lot has happened, and a lot is happening, and many more will still happen. And all we just pray is that government has the courage to continue on this path of delivering on its promises. Don't forget, the president at the New Year Day said anywhere he had gone, he has always been working hard for the good of Nigeria, and that he has promised would-be foreign investor that Nigeria is ready for business and that Nigeria is open. Now, some of all these things is what you're seeing playing out at the exchange. So I think it's a good thing. We need to build a lot of confidence in the market so that foreigners can also bring in money into the market, and then that will mean more jobs, that will mean more prosperity for the whole of Nigeria.
Before we wrap up, let's quickly touch the story that talks about the United States removing Uganda, Central African Republic, Gabon, and Niger from AGOA. I remember you talked about this yesterday. I needed to quickly react to it. Removing Uganda, removing Gabon and Niger from AGOA, for me, I really don't believe in AGOA really in the first place, because since 2007, we really don't see any fundamental thing that AGOA has done in terms of growth and creating opportunities for Africa. The American market is still close to most of us. But don't you think this action was triggered by, the homosexual?
Yeah, for Uganda, you see, because this is the problem, and for me, this is the hypocrisy of the Americans. If, for example, America is saying, okay, we are delisting Uganda because they have anti-homosexual law, and we are removing Niger Republic because they have a coup, and Americans believe in there's what they call the democratic peace proposition, that if countries that are in relationship, they are both democratic, they don't fight. But what we are seeing globally in terms of conflict, I don't think the democratic peace proposition actually is working. All that this really means is that you're fostering your own personal interest. Now, Niger is becoming happier with the coup even. Yeah, we may not have to encourage military dictatorship, but we have also seen the pillaging of Niger by France, an American ally, for years. And they paid blind eye to it. What is democracy that is inflicting hardship and poverty on another nation? And you don't talk about it. And now when the nation is saying, no, we want to rescue ourselves, and then it becomes a problem for you. And I think that's hypocrisy of America. Justice and fairness is universal. So if we're going to talk about democracy, we must talk in terms of democracy in terms of people having the right over what they have. All those obnoxious laws that French entered into with Francophone countries, Americans should have been the champion before now to write them off. There are monarchies in Europe that are not democratic. So what is America doing about that? You see, these are the real issues. So people should be allowed to be who they want to be.
Well, it doesn't erase the fact that democracy is the best system of governance.
According to her, that is subjective in modern time, because we've seen that the talk about democracy being the best form of government, sometimes it looks like it's a hype. Because if you look at nations and you look at development, some countries that do not have democratic government are happy with the kind of government that they have. It takes care of them. And here in Africa that we've seen to also democracy is the best form of government, we've seen abuse of democracy. We've seen abuse of democratic government. And it doesn't even seem to be democratic anymore. So I think it should be a matter of what works, not one size fits all when it comes to governance or even leadership. Is it functional? Is it producing results? That should be it, not because a kind of government have been adopted by some superpower, and then it should be what everybody follows.
You know, I was asking myself yesterday, Femi.
Yeah.
Probably we should also be advocating armed robbers' rights and terrorists' rights.
Because it's democracy.
Because it's what they feel they want to be.
Believe that's a good business.
So if I feel I want to be a terrorist, I can be a terrorist. No, this is the issue. No. When you are saying that somebody who is having a behavior that he feels that this is how I want to live my life, and therefore state is putting every resources to push that agenda. And you also have people who have negative behaviors, and you are calling them negative. What makes them negative? It's a choice they have made. That somebody chooses that say, I want to be a terrorist. Why are you after him? And somebody is saying that I want to be a homosexual, which is of course even an anathema to some of our culture, and you are passing it through our truth. And because we are thinking that we must have to feed through you. And I think this is where African states need to wake up. We need a one Africa, a united African state that can trade with itself and say to hell with any foreign powers who want to impose their values on us without respecting who we are.
Unfortunately, time is not on our side. But my take is the war civilian rule is better than the military. You can wait. Let's leave the option open for our audience to decide. It is subjective. All right, I must thank you for your submissions, Dr. Idauza, and Blessing providing the right compliment. All right, we'll go on a short break now. When we return, we'll focus on our big story for today, which is to look at the budget allocation for the Ministry of Health and some of the capital projects that the ministry will be embarking on. And that will take place after this short break. Stay with us.
My name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Juliet Benite.
I'm Godi Odidi.
My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
Souq News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to Souq News. So I'm happy that Souq TV has come into existence.
I'm happy to be here in the Souq News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for? And I think Souq News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and Souq News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching.
Broad Street. Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked to CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street. It has played a central role in the development of Lagos and history, an important commercial and administrative center for the British colonial authorities. It was also a home to some of the city's earliest modern buildings. Broad Street was a residential area in the pre-colonial era. With the British came the Methodist Boys High School in 1878 and the Broad Street Prison in 1882, renamed Freedom Park. The General Hospital, which was a British military hospital, was built in 1893. being the first general hospital in Nigeria. The old British Secretariat building, which is now the Federal Ministry of Justice, was built in 1906. Broad Street has seen a full turn into modern commercial office blocks, complexes, skyscrapers, and markets from the outer marina through Akpombo, early into the Adeniji-Adele Road. Broad Street is one of the busiest streets in Nigeria on weekdays, where commercial activities take place day and night. From modern buildings to ancient structures, this street gives one a raw dose of life in Lagos. Broad Street is often referred to as Lagos Financial District. It boasts a mix of architectural styles, reflecting its long history, colonial-era buildings, Victorian and Edwardian architectural features, alongside more modern skyscrapers and structures. Broad Street remains a vital, vibrant part of the Nigerian economy. Broad Street. Souq Enlightenment.
My name is Dr. Ajili Tobi. My name is Etemere Glover. Naomi, well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
Morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Eche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
The government says that subsidy is not in oil, and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil.
Energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Glad to know you're still there with us. It's the Early Exchange, and like I always say, don't forget this is your program. It means your voice has to be heard. What that implies is you can go on our social media platform, on our YouTube page, to share your view, using the hashtag Early Exchange. Today we'll be looking at the 2024 budget, but precisely we'll be looking at the allocation to the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare. A sum of 1.2 trillion has been allocated as the budget for that ministry for the year 2024. And they've elected some capital projects which the ministry is going to embark on. Those are things we're going to review. How viable are these projects? What are the things guiding the selection of these projects? And what impact will these expenses or expenditure, what will it be on
Morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Eche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
The government says that subsidy is not in oil, and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil.
Energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
We sincerely apologize for that mix-up. Technical each happens. But what's more important is we are here and that you're there with us. It's the early exchange, and we're looking at the 2024 budget. Precisely we're looking at the allocations to the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare. According to the projection, in the 2024 budget, the total budget for Ministry of Health is 1.23 trillion. Recurrent expenditure 793.3 billion. Capital expenditure, you have 434 billion. The plan is also to implement some capital projects, about 1,573 projects. Out of these projects, you have new ones to be 976 projects, while the ongoing one, 597. So the plan is also to implement some of the ongoing projects and then add new ones to it. These are things we're going to review shortly as our guest joins us in the studio. But to you, what's your take on this about 1.2 trillion total budget for Ministry of Health? We'd like you to share your thoughts with us. But let me find out from Blessing. The Ministry of Health, when you look at that ministry, the issue of health is very sensitive. It's something you can't play with. If you look at some of the capital projects that have been enlisted here, it has to do with dealing with some issues that has to do with equipping some of the hospitals or the public institutions in Nigeria as part of the capital projects. The plan is to implement about 1,573 projects. That's huge. New ones, 976. The ongoing one, 596. So you see a form of continuity, because there should be continuity in governance, not the fact that you implemented some projects last year and you want to abandon them. So the plan is to ensure that they also complement or complete the ongoing projects and then add new ones to it. What do you think could be done differently, looking at the health sector in Nigeria, and then the question, a lot of Nigerians do ask is, when you budget this kind of money, in reality, what turns out? So you have a situation of, I don't want to use what you order versus what you got, but the situation the projection on paper, and then the projection in reality, where you discover money are being allocated, but in reality, these things are not being done. What will be the impact of this kind of project on the people? These are questions Nigerians are asking, and people who are concerned to actually know that if these projects are going to be implemented truly, and then who are going to implement this project? Who are the set of contractors that are going to be contracted to do this job? Are they political contractors? Are they people who are party members? Are they professionals who will deliver the job? And then what time frame are we looking at? Even apart from that, what's also the plan in place to ensure compliance to standard? When it comes to implementing projects, you see situations that projects are being built or implemented, and then after a few months discover that they're depreciating because they are below standard. So what are the plans in place to ensure that these things are compliant to standard? These are questions Nigeria asks, and I'm also
asking me as a Nigerian.
You're also asking the same questions.
Okay. All right. To answer your first question, which is what impact will this project have on the Nigerian populace in the health sector? First of all, the impact will be based on the need. If you're doing something that is not so much needed, and of course the impact you do not expect it to be much, but if you're addressing issues that are of utmost importance according to the need, then you should know that the impact will be widely felt. And then going to the projects that will be executed, if we go through some of the top 5 capital projects, we have among them Immunization Plus and Malaria Progress by accelerating coverage. Yes, the malaria vaccine is out, but not everyone has been opportunity to take the vaccine. Not everyone has been able to afford it. So if this is going to happen this year, it then means that you will be relieving the health sector of a lot of burden. Because when you go into the hospitals, I do not know the statistics actually, but I know that a lot of persons go into the hospital with complaints or symptoms of malaria. And you could see in the environment that the environment too does not help matters. But if that is taken care of, if people are vaccinated against malaria, so that means that a lot of persons will come into the hospital normally because they're ill from being bitten by mosquitoes and having malaria. You've reduced the burden on the doctors. That's one way the health sector will feel the impact. And then another, you also see special intervention for revitalization of primary health care centers. That's almost going extinct in environments, particularly in the rural areas. You don't find primary health centers really around. Even the ones that you find are not very functional. Is that you just have one nurse there? You barely find a doctor. You barely find a fully functional primary health care. So if you have that in local areas where it is quite hard or it's not very easy for people to access the general hospitals. Now, apart from Lagos State, I do not think there's any state in Nigeria where you easily find general hospitals. Almost in every local government you get to in Lagos State, there is a general hospital. But let me not talk about all of it, because we have a guest who would tell us the challenges of the health sector and how this budget will make those challenges. Yes, we have joining us Dr. Tui, and he will be joining us in the studio, and we'll go on a quick break. By the time we return from the break, we'll be speaking with a guest who will be with us physically in the studio. Just stay tuned.
My name is Dr. My name is Temari Glover. Naomi, well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
My name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Juliet Benite.
I'm God Didi.
My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
Souq News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to Souq News.
So I'm happy that Souq TV has come into existence.
I'm happy to be here in the Souq News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for. And I think Souq News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and Souq News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching.
My name is Dr. My name is Temari Glover. Naomi, well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
I'm okay.
My name is Raymond Bola Brown.
Hi, my name is Fred Amata, and you are on to
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing H.A., Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
Energy or whatever kind of oil-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, if you're just joining us, you're at the right place at the right time because we got you covered. We're about discussing our major story for today, which is to look at the budgetary allocation to the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare. According to statistics released for the 2024 budget, the total budget for that ministry is 1.23 trillion. The recurrent expenditure is 793.3 billion. The capital expenditure is going to be 434.7 billion. The capital projects to be implemented will be 1,573. Out of this, you have new projects to be 976, and the ongoing one to be 597. To provide a better perspective to these and to help us analyze the budgetary projection for the Ministry of Health, we have a special guest in the studio. We have Dr. Tui Mebawondu. He's a public health practitioner and the founder of Health FM. Glad to have you join us on the next thing this morning.
Good morning. Happy New Year. Happy New Gregorian Year.
Interesting.
Gregorian Year.
Yeah, that's it.
Gregorian New Year.
That's great. The last time we had this conversation was last year.
So, how time flies.
Yeah,
we found out that when a year is not a leap year, it runs so fast.
Yeah.
But today, this year is a leap year. So those guys that were born about 4 years ago, February 29, 4 years ago, they'll be 1 year. They'll be 1 year today. They'll be 1 year this time around.
All right. Let's start with the 2024 budget itself before we get down to that of Ministry of Health. You know, you have a projection of 28.7 trillion naira for the 2024. The president submitted an appropriation bill of 27.5. But the National Assembly, in their own wisdom, felt it was needed to increase it. You had an increase of 1.2 trillion. And if you look at the benchmark, you know, $77 and then the exchange rate of 750 naira to a dollar, I would like you to quickly react to this projection. How optimistic are you with this kind of budgetary allocations?
First and foremost, I am not an economist. I am not a budget expert, but I am a common sense person. These are just projections. And the reality of the projection, even recently, we have to cut our oil production, which is actually the main foreign exchange earner for us. And you know that, of course, it's still a deficit budget. We're still going to borrow as much as up to 7-9 trillion to bridge the gap. We're going to sell some assets, national assets, to run the budgets. And then the projections on what the budget runs is queried, is actually, you know, not so solid a foundation. But having said that, I hope that people who understood how budget should be run will be able to manage it. But if your output is going down, of course, they're thinking of probably a little increase in the price of crude, which, of course, a lot of people are competing to supply the crude. We just hope that the stability will continue in Niger Delta to give us sufficient crude, and then the crude price will be very stable to be able to fund the budget. But how I wish that we have some other realities to use to fund the budget. But it is the budget, and of course, you know, the budget performance, most of the time we rarely get to say 60%. We rarely get to 60% because it's not just the budget, you have to release the money, you know. And then if the money is not released, how do you now, you know, implement the budget? And of course, we've been complaining that the budget for Nigeria is too timid, you know. We expect a country like this to be running ×4 of that sort of budget. But it's too timid for the population, for our aspiration. We hope things change.
All right, let's start from the point of aspiration now. There are projects that will be embarked upon this year. There are ongoing ones, and then there are also new ones. But top 5 capital projects have been highlighted, and among them we have Immunization Plus and Malaria Progress. We also have the Special Intervention for Revitalization of Primary Healthcare. In the order of priority, How do you find this?
Well, again, for us, in 2001, the Abuja Declaration told us clearly, we, even in our own country, we agreed to put 15% on health. I remember my teacher, Professor Campbell in Harvard University, said that, he said, you want to change the health system, follow the money. Now, that's why it's become important to have conversation around budgets and your intention. Now, if you look at Nigeria's socio-economic reality, even this 1.2 or 1.3 trillion allocated to health to see very small amounts of money, because last year it was 1.17, and then that was when dollar was a bit reasonable. And most of this input you are going to put into the revitalization of primary health care, immunization. Actually, what you are doing for immunization is what we call counterpart funding. Gavi is going to provide the immune, those things, and then you do your counterpart funding so that you can then be able to immunize. Now, they're not sufficient, because you look at our immunization schedule, we're barely 54% coverage in immunization. So that's not what we want to do. Immunization is one of the key things that can help us reduce childhood deaths. We know our reality in that regards, and then of course, give time here to children to achieve what they want to achieve. So immunization is a key issue there. So it's good that they have chosen to allocate money to immunization. Our prayer is that the money will not get whacked, okay? Because it has happened in the past that money that was given for immunization was mismanaged, and we had real problem. Now, the second thing is the primary health care center. Of the 30,000 primary health care dotted all over Nigeria, just barely 8,000 are working. Just about 2 weeks ago, I had a trip to go and assess one primary health care center in the Niger Delta area. I can tell you the place was locked up. Okay, the primary health care center was locked up, the roof was not there, nobody was there, the whole was smelly. When we finally got access to the place, and I asked, and even the person operating the primary health care center is not an indigenous of the place, and I wonder, there's a difference between you budgeting, you releasing the money, and the money achieving what you are. And we've always been shouting, are we getting the right, bang for the bucks we're putting there? So if you are 200 or something thousand, the lowest hanging fruit you have is your primary health care center, okay? That one is nearer to somebody, okay? And then we really have to deepen the utilization and increase the number. Of course, you know a lot of that is dealing with that. Finance is still an issue there. Human resources is still an issue. Process optimization is still an issue there. Insecurity is an issue in all this area. So, for me, health has moved beyond drug and all these things. We have to look for what I call a multi-sectoral collaboration to drive all these things. So, well, it's good if you budget for those things, but if you do, like it's something for the whole primary health care center in Nigeria, what do that amount to? But of course, we have the basic health care fund. That is 1% of the consolidated salary revenue of the government. This year is going to get about 100 or something or so billion. We'll see how far that one can be applied. The big elephant in the room is the application of even this tiny fund. Is the application. That's the big elephant in the room. Because the psyche of everybody is that where is the money to take? Where's the money to use? And then, lo and behold, many years, our health realities is not, quite reflecting the money we're spending. We're still having as much as more than 800 women deaths, okay, per 100,000. We're still having as much as 70 infant deaths, and as much as 100 and something under 5 deaths, per 1,000 births. That's a lot. Those things are scandalous. Our infection is still very high. Malaria is still killing, as much as we can, think of. Lassa virus outbreak is there. We cannot respond appropriately to any emergencies. And then recently, just yesterday, the news broke that the biggest syringe and needle manufacturing concern in Nigeria stopped functioning, stopped working. The company packed up. So when Pate came and started giving this is 4-point agenda. Agendas are usually very good. They're smooth. Pull, 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 pull. 1, 2, 3, 4. But one of the agenda is actually to help manufacturing, to help, what they call health consumables and all those things. But the biggest thing is a needle in Nigeria. I don't want to mention the name because they don't pay you. Packed up. So if you don't manufacture ordinary syringes and you don't manufacture ordinary gloves, you have to import with $1 that is above 1,000. So it's a huge issue. It's a huge issue. I think we really need to rethink the funding and budgeting process for health. I'm sure we'll get there. Even let me just mention it. Because what we tend to do now is do what we call line budgeting. Guys, bring item, you allocate money to those line budgeting. For me, what we should have been doing is to really rethink budgeting instruments. Okay? Now, apart from line budgeting, we can do a critical budgeting to free bottleneck, marginal budgeting for bottlenecks. Because the health system had bottlenecks. It has bottlenecks.
In what areas?
It has critical gaps. Okay? There's a big bottleneck as far as infrastructure is concerned, for instance. There's a big bottleneck as far as human resources, both in training and deployment is concerned. There's a big bottleneck in terms of process, health process, the flow of the process, Those are huge bottlenecks that you have to budget to free for you to be able to see the effect of the health. But we bring line budgeting all the while, and line budgeting it's just line. Okay, it's just line. Well, they have a good team. I mean, in terms of Alipate, Hiri in National Health Insurance Agency, another Oni also in National Private Healthcare Development Agency, and Sonny, is it Sonny, as the Minister of State. We just hope that something is going to happen.
All right, let me still take you back to this slide, the capital projects. The first on the list is the immunization plus and malaria progress. I want you to give us a true picture of where Nigeria is when it comes to the issue of immunization and malaria, activities or projects, because you're going to have about 57 billion to be spent on this. How do you think this money should be prioritized, and what do you think this money should be spent on? Could it be vaccines, research, or whatever? Talking about the issue of immunization and malaria.
The gap in immunization is in excess of 500 billion. Okay, if you have 50-something for both immunization and malaria, that means that you're just scratching the surface. In reality. So now, this is what happens. You look at counterpart funding. Gavi comes, United Nations, UNICEF comes in, a lot of people comes in, Bill and Melinda Gates comes in, and then you still have to really warehouse all those funding and use. There's a new trend which is now being implemented, is out to be implemented. It's called sector-wide approach. The sector-wide approach allows you to take all the money, warehouse, and spend, and prevent people from doing silos, or what we call focus or lateral funding, where Bill Gates will say, you see, I can only touch malaria. And then Gavi will say, I can only
My name is Dr. Ajili Tubi.
My name is Temari Glover. Naomi, well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you, no, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
My name is Dr. Ajili Tubi.
My name is Temari Glover. Naomi, well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you, no, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
outside. Try to get something. Yeah.
My name is Dr. Ajili.
My name is Temari Glover. Naomi, well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
My name is Dr. Ajili.
My name is Temari Glover. Naomi, well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
I'm okay.
My name is Raymond Bola Brown. Hi, my name is Fred Amata, and you are on to Souq News. If you are watching this channel for the first time, make sure you continue to watch it, because this is Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. Actually, I don't know. I really enjoyed the little moment I spent with you, and I think with more of this.
Souq News. Here's the Souq News, who had the courage to transcend a locked-off camera and actually have a conversation with a human being. It's a pleasure, Souq News. Thank you very much.
My name is Dr. Ajili.
My name is Temari Glover. Naomi, well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
I'm okay.
My name is Raymond Bola Brown. Hi, my name is Fred Amata, and you are on to Souq News. If you are watching this channel for the first time, make sure you continue to watch it, because this is Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. Actually, I don't know. I really enjoyed the little moment I spent with you, and I think with more of this.
Souq News. Here's the Souq News, who had the courage to transcend a locked-off camera and actually have a conversation with a human being. It's a pleasure, Souq News. Thank you very much.
I'm okay.
My name is Raymond Bola Brown. Hi, my name is Fred Amata, and you are on to Souq News. If you are watching this channel for the first time, make sure you continue to watch it, because this is Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. Actually, I don't know. I really enjoyed the little moment I spent with you, and I think with more of this.
Souq News. Here's the Souq News, who had the courage to transcend a locked-off camera and actually have a conversation with a human being. It's a pleasure, Souq News. Thank you very much.
On the hour, I'm Adesua Iromoseli.
The Nigerian government has handed over the $1.3 billion Zangure power plant to Mainstream Energy Solution Limited. With the development, Nigeria will increase grid-connected electricity from the current 12,200 megawatts and move the total number plant on the grid to 27. The Zungeru project is reportedly the largest power project completed in Nigeria over the past decade and stands as one of the most significant power ventures in Africa to secure a preferential loan from the Export and Import Bank, Exim Bank of China. The handover, conducted by the Bureau of Public Enterprises (BPE), has turned Nigeria-owned company to the largest hydropower company in Africa in about 2,000 megawatt. The acting director General of the BPE, Ignatius Ayewo, said that under the concession agreement, the concessionaire had effected the payment of the first tranche of the 50% of the commencement fee in the sum of 67.2 billion naira. Zimbabwe is confronting a substantial increase in its annual inflation rate, soaring to an almost two-year high of 12.2% in January, up from the previous month's 13.1%. The persistent depreciation of the country's currency is a key factor fueling this surge, adding significant pressure on monetary policy makers scheduled to convene next month. The Statistician General of the country, Mulenga Musepa, highlighted the acceleration in monthly inflation reaching 2.1%, marking the most rapid pace in a year and underscoring the challenges faced by the nation's economic landscape. Drax, the British power plant operator, is set to launch an independent business aimed at becoming a global leader in large-scale carbon removal. This new entity, operational within Drax Group but headquartered in Houston, United States, will be led by the Laurier Fitzmaurice, a seasoned energy infrastructure expert. Drax CEO Will Gardner stressed the company's dedication to renewable energy and emphasized the critical role in addressing climate change through secure, renewable power generation and landscape carbon dioxide removal. Recently, Drax received government approval to convert biomass unit using bioenergy with carbon capture and storage technology at its Drax plant. According to the Energy Information Administration, oil prices climbed as U.S. crude stockpile registered a more substantial decline than expected, dropping by 9.2 million barrels last week. Brent crude futures rose by 1.2% to $81.02 per barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude increased by 1.3% to $76.0 a barrel. The significant draw in stockpile was attributed to a sharp decrease in U.S. crude imports due to winter weather closure of refineries and reduced driving activities. Furthermore, U.S. crude output fell to a 5-month low of 12.3 million barrels per day, following a freeze in oil wells. Geopolitical concerns heightened as Houthi forces in Yemen launched a fresh attack on ships in the Red Sea corridor, leading to disruptions and redirection of vessels carrying U.S. military supplies. Tesla experienced more than 8% decline yesterday as CEO Elon Musk cautioned about a slowdown in sale growth for the year, despite prior price cuts that have impacted margins. Musk outlined plans to prioritize a cost-effective next-generation electric vehicle scheduled for production at the Texas factory in latter half of 2025. However, this announcement failed to resonate positively with investors, potentially resulting in Tesla's losing over $50 billion in market value. The EV industry, already grappling with a demand slowdown, faces intensified pressure with Tesla's price reduction. Shares of other electric vehicle manufacturers, including Rivian Automotive, Lucid Group, and Fisker, also experienced declines. Tesla's move has triggered concerns about increased competition and potential margin erosion. Several brokerages downgraded the stock, while others raised the rating, reflecting a mixed response from the investment community. And that's it on the news on the hour. I'm Adesoa Iramoselimeni. Thanks for watching.